The views expressed are not necessarily those of KSCJ and Powell Broadcasting Company. This program is not intended to replace the advice of doctors or other clinical providers. Consult with your practitioner to ensure the proper course of action for you.
Welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well on AM 1360, FM 94.9 KSCJ. This program is dedicated to your mental health wellness and brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency. Here's your host, Art Silva.
Good morning and welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well. This show is all about your mental wellness and how you can help yourself navigate the daily highway of life. Our show is brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency serving the Siouxland community. Our topic today is common sleep disorders. Wait a minute. Okay, joining me today from Family Services is Chief Operating Officer Brenda Geisinger and clinical therapist Amy Small. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're all awake here?
Halfway.
Early in the day. Well, today we're going to talk about sleep disorders and how it relates to your mental wellness. So first of all, let's frame our topic on let's talk about sleep disorders in general. What are we talking about, Amy?
There's all sorts of different types of sleep disorders, but when I think of them, this is the Amy definition of it, probably not the technical one, is any time that you feel like you're exhausted when you wake up in the morning after you've had a night of sleep.
There can be sleep disorders where you're not getting enough sleep or you're constantly sleeping too much. There's a whole spectrum of them. I think when people hear the word sleep disorders, they all kind of know in general what we're talking about, or they have an idea of kind of what sleep disorders are. There can be medical reasons or there can be emotional reasons why you're having problems sleeping.
Well, sleep for the brain is like gas for a car.
You
got to kind of have some sleep, and we kind of overlook it. We think we're bulletproof, we can continue on, but it could be a symptom of things going on. So let's talk about why sleep is important.
Well, and I think you made a good point. It's kind of like gasoline for your car. For us, sleep is another way to fuel our body, just like healthy eating habits, physical exercise, and then also the correct amount of sleep and good sleep, quality REM sleep.
I think it's also important to have enough sleep. You know, everybody has a different level that they need, but, you know, the average is 8 hours. And like Amy said, it's that good sleep. It's not laying in bed for 8 hours. It's actually having some good, hard sleep.
You know, without proper sleep, our minds begin to slow, and we're unable to operate at our full potential. And this happens until the mind becomes completely so deprived that the rest it needs, it just has to happen. And we show this in many different ways. Obviously, irritability, inability to concentrate coming in. And we just think the next night we're going to get sleep tonight and this is going to fix it. And that doesn't happen. So let me ask you this. How does sleep impact our mental health?
Well, I think you said it really well, where we get irritable. We also might get forgetful on things. Our mind might be racing and we won't be able to concentrate or focus. And then we actually don't get anything accomplished. It also can turn into this real focus, even when you lay down. Why can't I sleep? Why can't I sleep? Looking at the clock. Okay, if I fall asleep right now, I'm going to get 3 hours. If I go to sleep right now, it'll be 2 hours. And so it continues to occupy our time, and it actually helps us sleep less than do the opposite with what we want.
I think there are some sleep disorders where you think you're getting enough sleep, but you really aren't. So people that may have a lot of snoring or sleep apnea, it can be a problem, and you don't even realize that you're having this issue, but those around you might notice you're really short-tempered or have angry outbursts or you're just lethargic. So you may not notice that you're not getting enough sleep, but those around you sure are.
Well, you know, that's a good point, Brenda, because think about it like this. Sleep for the mind is like quiet hours at the office. When there is less to respond to, you get more done. Mm-hmm. So same goes for the brain. When we are asleep, the brain can really get to work because it doesn't have to respond to all the external stimuli. So we got to take time out and rest that brain, rest your organs. So I know we've seen that the mattress commercial, counting sheep, and we all got a lot of ways of going on it. But Brenda touched on one of the symptoms, we talked about, and that could be insomnia.
I had a college professor explain to me in grad school one time that sleep is kind of like a time for your brain to put things away in the filing cabinet. So when you talk about quiet space in the office, that just reminded me of that. The brain does some organization, and we don't know everything there is about the brain yet. There's still a lot of research being done, but he described it as time for them to put the files back away in the filing cabinet. And for some reason, that just resonated with me.
That does make sense. When you think about it, when you look at the consequences, the primary consequences of sleep loss in our psychological state, emotional instability, would you think that's a factor there? We're a little off kilter all during the day, how we respond with people, how we apply ourselves to tasks. Also, and Brenda touched on this, your mood after a night of too little sleep or your mood the night after too little sleep. So it kind of like goes the next day, it just continues on. Have you had any experiences with folks that have this type of problem?
I think there have been situations where a couple may come in and the one spouse can't sleep because the other one is snoring so bad. And the one spouse snoring, they've had a great night's sleep. But, what's going on here? And the other one is thinking, I have had no sleep. And as much as I nudge you or try to suffocate you with the pillow so you'll be quiet, just isn't working for them. And so they have to figure out how are they going to resolve that issue. And it may be having different bedrooms or, looking at a medical diagnosis. How can we solve this? So it does come up because it can really, really impact how people relate to one another.
I'm Matt Silva, and with me today on When Things Aren't Going Well is Brenda Geisinger and Amy Small, and we're talking about common sleep disorders that affect your mental wellness. Are you a morning person or a night person? Some people get up in the morning, it just takes them so long to come around. And I'm not talking about decaf in the coffee. I'm just saying every morning you got to give someone a little space, like they need a half hour, an hour. Some need a little more than that just to kind of come around. Is that something you feel is tied to not getting a good night's sleep?
I don't necessarily know if it's tied to that. It definitely could be, but I think some people just don't like waking up early in the morning, And so that could just be a personal preference too.
I got a good friend, Teresa, if you're out there, I will not call you before 9 o'clock in the morning. We have those strict orders. So some people don't like to get up. That's a good time to sleep. Well, I always found that sometimes I go into my deepest sleep when it's about time to get up. You kind of been tossing and turning, thinking about things, and then when it's time to get up, oh man, I get my deepest sleep. So, you got to go back and look at a lot of things. You talked about diet. You talked about stress. You talked about how do we shut things off and just, okay. And that's a tough thing to do because I know working with a lot of you that at night, you got things running through your minds and it interferes with sleep. So I wonder, what we can do. And I think about our children that we have in residential treatment and how we, bedtime stories and things we do like that to bring them down and into that quiet time. Maybe that's something we can do for adults, adult bedtime.
Absolutely. I think bedtime routines are absolutely great. And something that we're going to talk about next week is unplugging. And I think when we look at that and how that affects sleep, making sure that we're unplugging the devices, even TV, an hour or 2 hours before bedtime, because that helps the brain start to calm down and be like, okay, I know what's coming next. I need to get the same things done every night, brush our teeth, take a shower, whatever it is, have the story. I'm going to be tucked in. And even if you're an adult, you can still have those type of things. I'm not going to have coffee after 8. I'm not going to look at my phone after 8 o'clock. I'm going to have some time to either meditate or read a book. And then I am going to do my hygiene things and go to bed. One thing I hear a lot with clients that come into my office that are, older adolescents to even adults is their brain won't shut off at night. So one thing that I like to suggest is keep a little notepad or sticky note by your bed and just write the things down. It doesn't have to be sentences, 1 or 2 words, and place it there so you can get it out of your brain. You won't forget it So you can tell yourself, I can come back to this tomorrow. I can come back to this thought tomorrow. And so it can help your brain. It gives your brain permission to stop having it race through your head.
That's very interesting, and I think it's something we all can learn because we seem to be getting busier and busier and busier, and we have to learn to control that, especially as we start to age, because you just can't do that all-nighter that you used to get by with before.
Hey, now, let's not start aging ourselves here. We're still,
let me speak for myself, okay?
We're still three young pups in here.
Okay,
Let's not.
okay. Well, that's good. We're coming up right now on our break, so we're going to take a short pause for the cause, and we'll be right back here when things aren't going well.
Let's face it, that happens to all of us. However, the pandemic has compounded all of our lives and activities. Even the simplest tasks seem harder. Hi, I'm Brenda Geisinger, the Chief Operating Officer at the Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. Family Services is a United Way partner agency serving children and families of our community, and we're here to help. If you'd like to learn more about Family Services, please contact us via email, website, Facebook, or phone Mary Pickens. At Family Services, we change lives.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well on KSCJ. Here's Art Silva.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well. Our topic today is sleep disorders, and with me is Amy Small and Brenda Geisinger from Family Services. During the first half of our show, we identified some symptoms. Now let's talk about some help. We look at depression, and depression can have some sleep disorders associated with it also. You can have anxiety that can have sleep disorders associated with it also. So it kind of all gets back into looking at our activities and our routine. And it doesn't seem to be there's any magic bullet here. It's just the common sense approach to that. So let's talk about some activities that we could look at that maybe deal with some sleep disorders, particularly in the areas of anxiety and depression.
I think sometimes when people are struggling with depression or anxiety, as it gets worse, you may not sleep as well, or you may want to sleep too much. And so really getting a handle on that. There are a lot of just simple techniques Amy had mentioned earlier, getting a routine, sticking with that. It's retraining your body to start sleeping, but also addressing then your mental health so you can get that under control and deal with that. So maybe you'll start sleeping better. It becomes a cycle. The more depressed, you might not sleep as well. You get more depressed because you're tired, and it just kind of keeps going. So you have to work on both potentially. Having a healthy diet, and that doesn't mean eating the big meal at 9 o'clock so your digestion is struggling, and then you struggle with that. So it's all working as a whole. It's always about mental wellness, and that includes everything, your mental health, your physical health, and it all just goes together.
I think the other thing is you have to be open to try doing things differently. I saw this research study. I think it was Stanford University, but it's been a while since I've looked at it. But they did this study of what I thought when I first read it was, this is super silly. I can't believe they did this. And then I tried it and it really worked for me. What you do is you put your bum as close to the wall as you can, and you put your legs straight up on the wall, and you lay with your arms outstretched beside you, and you lay there for about 5 or 10 minutes, and you do some deep breathing. What that does, it aligns your spine, it opens up your shoulder blades, and you're training your brain, because your brain will have the tendency to still think about things, but you're training your brain to just let all of those thoughts and go. And then when you get up and lay down, you go right to sleep a lot quicker. Some of the clients that I've suggested doing this to, it's about 50-50. It works for some people and not for others. But I think that for me, when I first read that, I'm like, this is so silly, right? But I tried it and it worked. And so I think a lot of times it's be open to try things, even if you don't necessarily know if they're going to work, because it may work for you. And for me, that was helpful.
Brenda earlier brought up something that I think is, when you talk about sleep disorders, this is probably the number one symptom. And that's snoring. Taking a few heavy Z's. And I just want to preface my comments by saying 40% of women snore. So it's not all us guys. So,
I
but
don't
snoring.
know about that. I don't know if I
Well, you'd have
agree
to have
with
someone
that
tell you.
science. No.
And then snoring can also be a symptom of sleep apnea and a sleep test. So, I mean, that's probably the number one thing you hear about, Why'd you hit me with that pillow last night? Well, you was moving the curtains. I'll tell you, it was snowing so hard. So, let's talk about that. If you had clients that where you find the problem could be a medical solution when they need to go to see their doctor, Amy?
Absolutely. And I think that it's really important. I think people sometimes, we're trained that when we have things that are going wrong with our body, it's always medical, right? But sometimes there's a combination of mental health and medical things that are going on. So it's really important to look at all options and work with both providers. Another thing that's really great is if you sign releases and allow both of your providers to have communication with each other, because then that has your whole support team on the same page, and they're both working together for the common goal to help you sleep better. I know I always appreciate when, if it's a kiddo, if I can talk to school, their medical provider, maybe their BHIS provider, but adults too, it's really helpful to have permission to talk to their doctor and say, hey, how can we work together? And what if what I'm doing is in line of what you guys are suggesting too? It's super helpful.
Yeah, I think sometimes, you need some assistance, whether it's the breathing machine. I don't really know what it's called, but when you have sleep apnea.
Is it the CPAP?
Yes,
The
CPAP. CPAP. There you go, Amy. Okay, I had to think like on Dream Station. That's what it says on it, Dream Station.
But you may need that to help you with sleep while you're also dealing with some mental health issues. Or if you don't have mental health issues, you may just need that assistance. So is it a mental health issue? Is it a physical issue? Is it both? And it's having that communication and that dialogue. So it's critical that we all communicate. And like Amy said, it's for the common good and the common goal of we're all working on the same team.
Well, we all have inside of us this circadian rhythm that is kind of like our beat, how we dance to the music. And that can get disrupted, and that can really put you out of whack. Any comments on that?
When we do, when we do the time change in the calendar, quite often you will see people struggle for the first week or two, and that adjustment, or when school starts and kids struggle with, we got to get up early again. And some of those things can be worked with in terms of like when school is going to start, maybe the week or two before, start getting up a little bit earlier every day, getting ready for that moment. And just allowing yourself to change and work with the seasons and what your body's needing.
So recognizing this is very important, because then you take the first step of your own self-control. And that's what our show is all about. How can we give you tips if you think you've got a symptom of something like this? Try some of the coping techniques that we're sharing with you. And if you think you need more help, you can certainly give us a call at Family Services. Mental illness is that stigma is going away. It is so critical to understand something's out of whack here, and this could ripple effect onto other areas of my life if I do not address it. And a lot of the coping techniques I know that we work with in Family Services have been extremely helpful right across the board, dealing in not maybe just the sleep disorders, but other things associated with it that are really the root cause of the problem. Anything you want to say on that, Brenda?
Yeah, it all goes hand in hand, working as a team. One of the coping mechanisms may be as simple as the scent of lavender quite often helps people calm, get more relaxed, and having that when you're trying to get to sleep. You can use it when you're full of anxiety and help calm you down. There's other scents like orange and lemon to give you a little lift when you're suffering for depression. So it doesn't have to be really difficult coping skills. It can be really simple and working together. And I think people are becoming more aware of their bodies and their mental health and how to address that, and more in tune of what they're needing or what's off. And I think that's what's important.
To that note, it's important to understand that mental illness is just that, an illness. Just like you get a fever or a sore throat, it's something you have control over. It's not something to be ashamed of. So we do a lot of great work at Family Services, and I know that we do help out an awful lot of people in this area. Amy, anything you want to say regarding good night?
Sleep well.
Sleep well. I love it. Now, do you go camping? Does that help you sleep?
Oh, I love camping. It is my happy place, my getaway place. I always sleep better in my camper. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're coming up towards the end of our show this week, and it's been really interesting talking about sleep deprivation. And I'll be thinking about it all day now as I try to stay awake. But we always try to end our show with a little bit of humor. Humor is medicine for the soul. So this week, I'm going to ask you this. When you die, what part of the body dies last? The eyes. They dilate.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Amy. And also thanks to our listening audience for joining us today, this morning. And I want to give a shout out to Phil Clays in Rivercade 2021. It's rolling out right now. There's activities now and through the month of August. So please come out and participate. It's the community's summer festival. When things aren't going well, we'll be back next Saturday morning. But if you have any questions or comments or would like to inquire about our services or seek employment opportunities, please go to our website at bghome.net. It's a great place to work, and we're hiring right now, so give us a call. We'd love to have you join our team. When things aren't going well, we'll be back next Saturday morning at 7 right here on 1360 AM, 94.9 FM, KSCJ, and our topic will be going off the grid. Have a great week, and may the sun shine on you.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails.